Hey everyone, this is Chris, aka The Dark Wall. I caught a little bit of the Dead by Daylight Q&A live stream, and it was looking pretty good. So I thought it might be fun to just do a little sort of, I guess you could say, reaction slash commentary on the Dead by Daylight Q&A. See what they've got to say here. Now, I'm going to skip over the introductions and everything because we already know this is not Quinn, Almo, or Ethan and McLean. That, yeah, anyone who pays attention to DBD to a decent extent knows who these people are. So start off, they mentioned that the Twins patch was quite buggy. They apologized, are saying they're giving us some blood points, which I mean, it's like 10k, it's nothing. And they say they're hard at work at fixing it. So that's just like they had this long-winded thing about it. I just kind of skipped past it since I mean, generally the way I feel about the way they did things on the patch is that I feel like this patch is a great example, and we're starting off with a rant. I'll try to make it quick, but basically I think this patch is a good example about how they need to start delaying their content a bit more, because like not only did they break the new killer, which I mean we usually see bugs come out, but it's like this is the longest list of bugs I've ever seen in a Dead by Daylight patch, and it feels almost insulting, I guess you could say, in a way, because it's like they didn't even finish the killer, yet they're gonna want us to pay full price for the killer. Like there's mechanics and animations that are meant for the killer to use that are paramount to how their character works that just aren't done yet, and yet they say, okay, well, give us the money now and we'll give you what we have and finish it off later. So I do feel like, given that and given the sheer mass of bugs, they really need to start being more comfortable with saying, hey, we need to push this back. There's not enough time. It ends up feeling like they want money now, so they're going to give us what we got and we're going to just figure it out the rest. You'll get a functioning game eventually. So yeah, that rant aside, I really would like to see them commit a little bit more time to the craftsmanship of making a functional game. And granted, it'll never be perfect, but I'd like it to be better than what they gave us. All right, but enough of that. Let's get into the Q&A side of things.
Yes, we got the questions from our forums and as well as
Okay, I just want to make sure my spacebar worked for that.
So we're going to start straight up with it. TDZ Luke is asking, can you show the results or stats of the Bloodlust experiment?
Ooh boy.
So we don't have a fancy graph to show, but it's basically more or less the same one we show lately in the previous stream.
Okay.
Just taken that one.
Well, I did find one thing when I was looking.
Oh, they got a fancy little transition now.
The very first thing when I was looking into it, I was really curious. How did that weekend without Bloodlust compare to the weekend before? And there was like a 1 to 2% difference in kill rates. But just digging a little bit further, I actually realized that the real anomaly was the weekend I was looking at there, because Bloodlust weekend was actually very similar to other weekends in terms of kill rates. If anybody has a good fan theory as to why the weekend before the Bloodlust test weekend was like
shout out to Dog, by the way. Hi, Dog.
Please share. I would love to. Yeah, I would love to hear your theories.
Wasn't that the weekend of free weekend?
That
might be a theory.
If that's true, that would probably account for it.
All right, so we have a question.
Okay, so the Bloodlust experiment was largely inconsequential, it looks like. I do think that like certain killers, especially 110, could probably benefit from a little Bloodlust. Generally, my attitude is you give them Bloodlust 1 normally, since that's a fairly commonly used part of the game that we see. Since, I mean, most chases aren't over in 15 seconds, unless you're like some sort of god or a certain killer that specializes in that. I would say maybe give Bloodlust 2 in the spot where you usually give Bloodlust 3 and just get rid of Bloodlust 3. I feel like that would be a happy medium. It's like, it's never a good idea to go for Bloodlust 3, but Bloodlust 3 is just spicy enough to fuck you, and a killer is not good enough to really get you. So I'd be happy with that. But I'm afraid that they're going to be like, oh, well, there's no change. Therefore, Bloodlust is completely unnecessary on all of the maps instead of just the ones we've updated. Which, honestly, some of them you still need it for. But I digress.
From AGM on forums. Are there any steps being taken to reduce the grind?
We're aware that the grind is kind of nuts. it's not as nuts as it was when we shipped. And when our now departed economic designer let us have 2 perks per blood web, that helped a lot, but we know that there's still more work to be done. We have some ideas that we're working on, but there's nothing imminent, so I can't really discuss anything at this time, but do know that we are aware and there are plans in the works to address
yes,
it.
that's okay. I don't really have any strong feelings about that.
Smaller things that were done that would kind of help, as well as you know, the whole blood web thing. There's also, if I'm not mistaken, you know, changing the tiers, how the tiers of perks is done, and making them
like
closer
a shift,
to each other.
Like a bit of a shift in the philosophy of perk tiers.
This I think is good.
Typically, like when we released, there was a very large difference between the levels of the perk tiers. Like you'd see a pattern where it was like level 1 would be I don't know, 2, and then the second one would be 4, and the third one would be 8. Like you'd have something like doubling over tier. Whereas now we actually try to keep things pretty close together. We would want the first rank of perks to be playable, maybe not like maximized, but playable.
I'm kind of on the fence about changing the grind. I mean, like, for my perspective, it's not that big of a deal because I already have everything and I have a ton of time in the game. I'm not struggling to unlock stuff, but as a new player, I mean, I think they would be wise to, they could probably eliminate perk tiers altogether almost. And maybe I'm foolish in thinking that maybe I don't understand the full gravity of doing something like that, but I mean, it seems like something you could maybe do, and that would definitely help the newer players get into the game.
GFed from Forum is asking, will Decisive Strike get a rework or a change?
Oh boy.
So that's been
this one's spicy.
Yeah, it's definitely a contentious perk. I think it generates a lot of discussion. People who haven't been around since it came out might not know that this perk has already undergone quite a few iterations. I guess it's not perfect yet, so this is still something that we talk about fairly frequently. We don't have any conclusions to share about it.
You know what? These guys aren't exciting enough to not have some background music for, so I'm going to turn on some background jams. I'll keep them quiet. I don't want to overpower this stream, but I don't know. I feel the need for some jams. I'm a man who likes some jams. Let me make sure we're leveled out right. There we go. Now they're even more snazzy. You're welcome, Dead by Daylight team.
We would like to do something about the more abusive side of it. I think one of the things that gets people upset with Decisive Strike are players who use it as only kind of an invincibility shield to like pester killers, perhaps more than intended. And then of course the other issue is people who view this perk as only an anti-tunneling measure and then feel that it's unfair that they'll get smacked by it by a survivor who's been doing lots of other things in the game.
I mean, I think it's fair to see that as unfair.
In their mind, sort of tag it as clearly this person was not tunneled, they've done things in the game, I probably shouldn't be affected by Decisive Strike. So we're keeping all of that in mind, and we are discussing possible improvements for this perk.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm kind of on the fence with his response there, because he's like, people who feel like it should be an anti-tunnel perk and nothing else. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, the way he says they feel that way, it makes me feel like he doesn't feel that way. I generally think that, like, the idea that you can completely negate the killer's ability to threaten you should definitely be something that's heavily limited and almost non-existent. Now, there's exceptions, which are in the cases of tunneling, hence Decisive Strike. My general idea is that I'd like it to last for about 30 seconds, and you can maybe slow the drain while you're slugged, like so that it goes back to a minute if you're slugged. But the way it works is that it doesn't go down and chase at all. And if you touch a generator, if you heal somebody else, if you unhook somebody, if you do anything other than heal yourself, it just deactivates. Because at that point you're saying, okay, I'm part of the game again, I'm contributing to my team's success, I don't need breathing room from the killer. So that's, in my opinion, the most fair way of having DS, and I feel like that would still make it one of the, well, the best perk in the game. It's widely considered the best perk in the game, and I mean, if it's a perk that can change a killer's way of behaving for the entire team, whether or not you run it, I mean, I think it's a fair thing to say it's the best perk in the game. So yeah, that's my idea for DS. I'd like to see it more anti-tunnel focused, and I'd like to even buff that aspect. I just don't want it to be like a whole, I'm working this gen, oh, there's a locker over here, here's the killer, jumped in there, Go ahead and eat my DS, bitch. Like, that's the obnoxious part. So yeah, I definitely agree that they need to alter DS a little bit.
All right. Reverse Velocity from forums is asking, are there any other killers that will be getting any changes soon?
Well, we've already talked about Clown, and that Clown is going to be getting the next update.
Yup.
It's soon, but we haven't announced a release date for it yet. The Huntress is getting an add-on pass. She's the last killer remaining with an incorrect number of the different rarities perks. Notably, she's only got one iridescent. We're going to take care of that. As usual, 2 releases after the Twins ship, there will be an adjustment like we did with the Blight soon after.
So I'm glad that they're not going for a full rework or like a big change like Billy, and they're just going for a like a pass through with Huntress, because she really doesn't need more than that.
We're, you know, in this release,
Her add-ons are really the only
updates.
problem.
I highly recommend trying the new Soul Chemical add-on. I had a lot of fun with that last night.
Soul Chemical is a lot better than it reads on paper. It
Oh,
works.
it works exactly the way it should. But we can announce who's probably getting an update next, and that is Demogorgon.
I'm so
it's
glad
not
about
going to be
that.
a major update. We're pretty happy with the idea of having Shred on one hand and the portals on the other hand. It's just going to be a fine-tuning pass and probably an add-on pass. Just check over a few things.
He needs that so bad, because it's like Demogorgon, he has an okayish concept: mobility via the portals, awareness via the portals, slowdown via the portals, anti-loop to a very small extent with the Shred. He's got a very technical aspect to him in terms of the Shred, but the thing is, the payoff is like a very slightly below average killer for a very high amount of technicality when it comes to that Shred, where it's like, hey, if I wanted to play a character that's really technical, I could play Nurse and do well for putting in a lot of effort. So it never feels like it's worth it with Demo. So he's just a character that needs to be a little bit more strong. He also definitely needs an add-on pass through. Like, there's very few reasons to use anything other than the Rat Liver in my experience. So hopefully, I know Bronx will be super happy if they give him Rat Liver at base. He's like the captain of the Rat Liver at base brigade. So hopefully they do a good job with that. I definitely would like to see. I have everything on him, and I have him P3'd, so I'd love to want to actually play him every now and again.
The whole his gameplay is working quite well. We just want to give him some extra.
There's also a
power
lot of enthusiasm
and
for the
some
character.
things.
I want to say that chat is not letting me down here. I can see all the demo in the chat, and I'm very happy about this.
He's a good boy. Strong good boy tendencies.
Thank you for showing up. All right.
Should
Louis,
we, should we
go ahead, Louis.
tease about this other little thing that's here?
Yeah, go ahead, Louis.
This is not like a big killer rework or anything, but there are a couple of tweaks coming to the Wraith as well. I'm not even going to get too deep into it. I'll just leave the small tease of true invisibility is something
That would be nice.
that may or may not be happening, and I'll just let you guys.
So
chew on that one.
Wraith not having true invisibility is really rough on like open maps, because unlike a lot of the other stealth killers, he doesn't have a way of being low profile. Like Pig, Ghostface, they can all like get really small and close to the ground, so being fully invisible would really be nice. I'd also like to see him have like maybe Purple Windstorm at base. I feel like would be pretty good for him.
Oh my god. Here it is. It's starting. Alright. A Poiple Turtle is asking,
Poiple Turtle,
are
nice.
there any plans to add more features to custom games like bots or solo play?
Custom games are cool.
I'd like solo
Really,
play for sure.
Only a small portion of our players actually use them. So we don't want to spend too much time adding features.
I mean,
to
they're
the
not very
system.
good right
Most
now,
people
so
aren't
maybe
going
that's
to
why
see
only a
this,
few
but,
people use them.
It's a tricky thing because we know they're useful in that when you want to just get on with your friends, not worry about queue times and all that kind of stuff, it's great to just get in a custom match, right? But it's still a small percentage of what people are using, so we have to be careful about what time we invest in it. But
That's fair.
we are open to this, and there are some ideas bubbling in the background in other parts of the design team working with ways that we could make the custom games a little better. So it's not super high on the priority list, but we're aware that you guys want something there, and so it's being what's a good word? Percolated.
Percolated. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Fogbringer from the forums is asking, will killers who didn't receive a map at launch get them after the graphical update?
I
is
wouldn't
complete,
expect
like
this.
The Twins or the Blight?
Unfortunately, we don't have any plans at the moment to add new maps for previously released
Yeah, this is kind of dumb. I mean, honestly, think about that. They're like releasing new maps as they put out new killers, and then they also gotta go back and release map. Nah, that's silliness. Nah, fuck that. I don't even want them to do that.
Although I certainly understand the desire. These are some cool characters, I agree.
All right. So that Twins is a little sad, but that's.
I would
that's
like
the
a
answer. So,
Home Depot style map maybe, or like some
Quebec
sort of
from the
grocery
forum
store
is
for
asking, will
Ghostface.
there be more changes to Twins besides those announced?
Well, yeah, obviously they have like the
As
mid-chapter update after the
on
next killer.
Next killer release, we will do a revisit of the Twins. We have to give them a couple months of playtime for people to learn how they work, for survivors to adjust for their play styles.
Yeah, this is all kind of established
a little
stuff.
time
Don't really
for a
care.
couple of iterations of people and players figuring out how these things work before we can make informed decisions about how we might want to change things. So you can expect that in the next full chapter release, there will be some tweaks and updates to the Twins Den.
All right. Oni wants your macaroni.
Oni's a hungry boy.
Sorry, I
Don't judge
can't
him.
with the names today. Will we ever see
I like this question.
at least a fix for
At least a fix for
So this
FPS
question was
drops.
specifically mentioning FPS drops like spikes when status effects appear or when items are looted from a chest. So
Generally, I think that they'll do it gradually
so
over
we,
time.
we
This
do
isn't
have
a question that
for
everyone knows the
the,
answer for already.
The performance drop when looting a chest. I believe that one actually went out in 4.4. These are things that we're looking into. There has been on certain platforms there is a noticeable stutter when status effect icons appear for the first time. It's a known issue that we also have in our backlog. So yes, this issue and other issues like it are pretty high on our priority list for improving performance.
yeah, and to manage expectations here, like issues that are specific to moments like this, like FPS drops when a status effect appear. That's a possible thing that we can look into, but just general FPS loss, that's very vague for a question that we can't like promise, like you're never gonna expect to have an
Yeah, I mean,
FPS
I don't think
ever again.
anyone really
So,
expects
yeah,
much
we're
out of
obviously
just like
targeting
have
some issues that we
competent
know causes
FPS.
that, but that's not a a blanket statement saying we're gonna fix FPS drop all the time.
I know I play on console, so I'm like, whatever.
Managing
Just
expectations
run
here.
above 10 FPS and I'm
Alright,
happy.
Ethan, the real Ants Gruber is asking, why has Meta been consistent for so long, and why have you not tried
Ooh
to
boy,
fix it up
ooh boy.
All right, so this is a fairly complex issue. So
I have a feeling I'm about to
make sure that
dislike
I don't
Ethan.
get lost in what I'm trying to say, I'm going to just read my prepared answer here. So
Okay.
it comes off a little more boring when I do this. Okay, so we got two things. Number one, we aren't trying to make every new perk the best. That causes power creep, and then all of the newer perks become the must-haves, and all the older ones fall into disuse. We don't really want to do that.
I think that's a really lazy way to
DLCs
look at it.
Shouldn't be a must-have if you wish to stay competitive.
Okay, so first off, I'm going to respond. Since he's two-parting it, I'll two-part it. Okay, so he's talking about power creep, where you have all the new perks become the good perks and all the old perks are shit. You see, there's this whole initiative that they were undertaking to address just that. Because obviously you can't just have your new perks be shit. Why would you do that? Then no one will use them. So the initiative was they were updating the perks to be better than what they used to be, or just improve their design. And then they nerfed Thanatophobia, a very mediocre, barely used perk, and they made it so that it's basically only good on Plague and nobody else. And even in that, it's more questionable since people now cleanse versus Plague. So yeah, they upgraded some perks to make them a little bit better, but they're too careful with how they upgrade things. They don't think, okay, they think this perk might be too strong, and then they don't think, okay, compared to what? Like, Is Thanatophobia giving you 20% slowdown if everyone is injured and healing at a normal rate, I might add, really anything compared to Ruin, which they're happy with the design of, or maybe Pop, which they saw fit to nerf without good reason? It's like, is that going to really do as much for you? I really don't fucking think so, not even in its optimal situation. So I don't think that they're really thinking of that appropriately. And it's like, let's take Mindbreaker, for instance. Mindbreaker is actually, I'm pretty happy with. I like the design change. And admittedly, I haven't played around with it enough, but I'm like, I still think, I find it questionable as to how helpful it's going to be. And what else did they change? Oh God, it's been a little while. They changed Pop, which was like my big annoyed change. They changed Slippery Meaning. It's like, oh, it gives you like 8% chance to get off the hook now. Woo. It's like, that's still worthless. So yeah, they need to put effort into upgrading their old perks, making them all things that could be conceivably used in a build that you want to be good. And if you do that, and they can have their gimmick perks, sure, but there's a problem in that they have a lot of perks that aren't like gimmicky fun abilities, and they aren't worth a flying fuck of a damn. So in that regard, they can do that. They can improve those perks, and then it's like, hey, when you have new perks come out and they're really good, they're just another really good option in the other really good options you already have. So I think the idea of, oh, some perks are going to be shitty is incredibly lazy on his part, because you're just assuming that because this problem exists, you don't need to fix the original problem of the old perks being bad. You're simply saying new perks should be bad too. That's an idiotic way to look at it. Anyways, continue, Balance Boomer.
They should be something you want if you want to add that variety to what you have available. We'd rather give people more options and ways to play and let them decide if they are worth switching builds for. Number two, we do change meta perks on a somewhat regular basis. Let's say Hex Ruin, the countless exhaustion changes, Medal of Man, etc. But we don't exactly want to nerf something into the ground just for the sake of shit.
Okay, exhaustion changes haven't happened in a really long time. Hex Ruin's been around for a while, which is fair. I would say Undying's also a good meta change that they had recently. What else?
Making up the meta if the perk itself isn't causing any problems. That said, some people are going to run the same 4 perks every match because that's what works for them, or because they saw a guy that told them it's a really good build. It'd be great if they do decide to switch it up, but if that's the way they enjoy the game...
It's not a problem of some people are going to run 4 perks. It's that some people, well, most average players will see certain perks being significantly better than anything else they have the choice between. So tons of people will come to the exact same conclusion that this is a very solid way to play the game, because there's not enough variety in the realm of perks that are objectively good and effective compared to the better perks. So I again think that he's being a little lazy-minded in this, like he's trying to take a lazy answer of, oh, these people just like these perks, when the question is, why do all these people like these perks, not just this particular guy?
We don't really want to tell them no either. We've got Ruin and Undying is supposedly everywhere. It's true that
It's pretty
fairly
common,
but it's not as pervasive as just Ruin was before the update.
Personally, I'm okay with Ruin Undying.
But the Ruin change is already fairly well established, and Undying is only 3 months old. So we're at the moment investigating the synergy between those 2 perks and how common they're used together in matches, which at the moment is slowly climbing. So we may need to look at Undying at some point in the future.
Good boy, Undying nerf.
It's not a high priority thing yet because it doesn't seem to be affecting a very large proportion of our
I could see like maybe only letting it regenerate a totem like once every 2 minutes or something. That could still be solid. I don't think it needs to be nerfed too heavily. It's still,
something here
it shouldn't be crap.
for the chat, actually. I just want to make sure that I don't say
Like having
something-
Hex be a reliable
we
thing
good?
that we can use, since they've moderated the reward that Hexes give, seems
do
pretty
you have an
reasonable.
image? Awesome. Oh, there you go.
Free charm.
So,
It's free and
wanna
a
get
charm.
This really cool and cute, awesome charm, and log in the game, and enter this code.
Nifty.
That's. I'm sorry. I just like. Oh. Yes. So this is going to be valid until the end of the month. Just make sure.
So we are looking into some other methods for earning
Okay,
progression. in
rift
the
progression. I'd be happy to
but
have
there's
extra rift
nothing
progression.
Yet concrete enough that I can announce today, but we're on it.
So Popso is asking, any update on fixing the Blight's point of view?
Oh my god, yes,
Yes.
please.
We have a version internally that we've been testing. It's raised his camera up a bit and pulled it back a little so he's not like.
I gotta talk about this, man. I've been wanting that for a while because I really like the Wraith, the Blight's power. It's fun, it's different, it's got a lot of skill to it, it's got a lot of swagginess to it, a lot of hype, and it's got a lot of freedom of movement. I love freedom of movement in pretty much any game. But the thing that makes him so unenjoyable to play is that he's so close to the ground that it's like you have all these maps that have like waist-high grass. It makes it so that because of your perspective angle, you can barely see scratches. So it's like you're losing people left and right. Keep in mind that you're also moving at a high rate of speed, unlike other characters who are actually taller than Blight, like Hag, for instance, who is more meant to sort of like guide you into a trap rather than actively chase you. So yeah, it's pretty rough playing him. But if you can get around that, he's still a very good character, a very fun character. It's just really annoying dealing with that. So I've been like sort of similar to how Oni like launched like a mess and then gradually he became more controllable. I've been waiting for Blight to have it changed like this for a while. Because yeah, I really want to play as that character.
Through things, and it's really good, but it's not 100% ready yet, and we can't really announce when it's going to be released, but it's almost there, and it will be sooner rather than later.
Hopefully by the
We're not gonna have to
mid-chapter.
wait a year for this update. It'll be sooner than that.
Okay, but if we're just moving the camera, why is it not there already, Ethan?
Because we're not just moving the camera, we are rebuilding the animations.
Yeah, I already get this.
Because the camera is attached to a bone, and so the first-person animations all have to change, and that's a lot of work. And the reason that work wasn't done earlier, even though it's high priority, is because the twins had 2 characters to animate, so the animation team has been slammed unbelievably for the last couple of months. So yeah, we're getting that out as soon as we can. It's unbottlenecked now that the twins are out. There are still a few animation issues for them to clean up on the twins.
Let's just skip to the next one.
Has the number? I do have an answer here, Kurt. Did was raise the camera. You wouldn't be able to see your hands.
Okay,
anymore.
okay. Sorry, I had to skip through that because they were just going on and on.
Yeah, it's kind of practical as a killer player.
I'm like, yeah, we get it. Just fix it.
Where you're hitting. Okay, so Master Grit is asking, will map RNG be improved, specifically about dead zones?
All right. Well, I do have an answer here, courtesy of our level design
Okay.
guru, which is that we are going to be implementing a formula similar to what happened with the Springwood level design rework. Essentially, what's going on here
Loop
is
money.
that using the old systems, the number of pallets on a map is mostly determined by which tiles spawn. So essentially, the logic is on like a per tile basis, mostly. And our newer system has more consistency across the entire map, which should hopefully help eliminate dead zones.
Okay.
And just to be clear, this is not part of the graphical update.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a separation between gameplay updates to the maps and the visual updates to the maps.
As long as
And I know
the
that,
flip side is that they don't have as many
sometimes
like
come together and they sometimes don't,
safe
so it can
pallets,
be
then
a little
sure.
bit confusing.
I'm okay with this.
So this thing for dead zones is not going to be necessarily attached to a visual update to any particular map.
50.
While we're talking about, graphical update and just update to old stuff, San Pavo is asking if
This
the
is a fucking
licensed
long ass Q&A.
characters will be part of the character model updates as well.
Yep, they will be getting the same treatment as other characters. With them being licensed, we do have to go to the IP owners and check any updates with them to be sure, but we are updating.
That's cool, I guess. I'm not really
Uh,
too worried about that either way. I think the characters look fine.
Thank you. All right. Miss Herrick is asking, when can we expect Victor's animation for lockers?
Yeah. This one is coming in an upcoming patch. I do not have an exact
I kind of feel
date,
like he should stay being able to hit
unfortunately,
people
but it
inside
is coming.
lockers.
And this is also
It's like
tied
lockers
to
should
the
be
fact
risky
that
and
there was
dangerous
a
to
lot
do.
more
I don't.
animation on this,
If I
release.
catch you in a locker, I don't want it to be a
Um,
negotiation whether or not
that
anything
explains it,
happens.
but it is coming. Passerino T. When can we expect the new maps again?
Soon.
Soon what?
Soon trademark.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking about new maps. I'm thinking they got to do Red Forest probably because Red Forest is a little bit dated. They may not. It's not horrible looking. And they got to do Coldwind. They also have Haddonfield and The Game are two license maps who are a little bit of hard to tell of what they're going to do in that regard. I hope they do Haddonfield because that would be a good excuse for them to do a rework of Haddonfield as well, which would make it not as shitty. So yeah, once they get those, I would say we probably have about maybe 2 more patches of redesigned maps before we get new ones. Just guessing.
All right. Joey66 is asking if we're gonna ever get a stats tracker for play.
This could be kind of fun.
You know, that's.
I think
that's
there's a
great
website that
question,
lets you
and
do that,
something
if I'm not
we would
mistaken,
really
but it's
love
only for
to
PC.
have. Technically, there are all kinds of stats that are being tracked. The issue is creating the right way to view these stats, sort these stats. It would require a lot of behind-the-scenes work to get it to an acceptable standard. So at the moment, this is considered sort of a nice-to-have task rather than a priority, which means it's probably not in the cards for now. Although I personally, I think many other people on the team would love to see something like that.
Okay, yeah, I can be okay with that. I mean, I don't see why that would be a
Alright.
big deal. Also, hold on,
Which is
Elmo.
another
What is
question
Elmo
about
doing
Many other
here?
people on the team would love to see something.
Look at
like
Elmo.
that.
He's like freaking out over here. Jesus, Elmo, calm down. You're scaring me.
All right. Which is another question about, which next. Well, I'm gonna restart that. Joe by Daylight's asking,
Joe
what
by
map or
Daylight.
realm will we rework next? So I don't know if you saw, but on social media we've been showing up some work in progress and.
So yeah, they
also
don't tell you what it is. Spoilers.
Teaser video we've been showing up, not ready to announce that teaser, for the changes coming to the clown. So the answer is
Oh yes, we're gonna get to see some
Yes.
changes that they got coming up for Clown. Let's see this. I only saw a little glimpse of it. All right. Now what I want is for him to have a lot of different bottle types that do different things. We see maybe not be final and may change. Okay, cool. Seriously, if this changes and I see any of you say that this video was misleading, I'm gonna show you this slide and it's gonna be really embarrassing for you. Okay. And so, yeah. Okay. All right. What's this? We get a piss bottle. Or I'm sorry, no, we get a yeah, it's like a cloud that turns piss colored. Okay. All right. What else? Is that it? Okay. So hopefully we have like here's what I want for Clown. I want him to have like a shit ton of different abilities. Like I want him to be like a Swiss Army knife of different bottle types that do different things. So this is sort of in that direction. I don't know how far they're gonna go on it, but yeah, I'd like to see various types of bottles. That'd be a lot of fun to just have like him have like just this master of the fog persona where he's just got like all these different like things he can throw out. So yeah, I'm down for that. I hope they show us more, obviously, but yeah, it's going in the direction I'd like.
all right.
Supposedly.
Cool.
Just to make sure.
Give us the piss bottle.
That it is understood. This was a what? This was a work in progress and can change. But we're gonna let you guys speculate on what that means because basically, we want to see what you think about that. So that's just a tease, actually, of what's coming. Oh yeah, there it is.
Hopefully whatever the
You guys
second
are not
effect is worth
doing
it.
chat today.
Good old chat.
Yep. All right, Freddy96 is asking if we will rework all the offerings. So,
Maybe a bottle that
Ethan?
makes it so you can't vault or drop pallets.
No. We're
Oh,
not
that
gonna
might be
rework
too spicy. I
all
don't
of
know.
them, but we will see which offerings people are using the most Well, we
Okay,
know
yeah, I don't
blood
care about
red
this one.
offerings are the most common. But we'll look at ones that don't get used that often, and we'll be revisiting the offerings. A couple thousand. It's a little weird.
So basically, they're going to touch on some, but not all of them.
Because I know that this is something we talked.
I'll skip through this one because I saw this one. Basically, they're saying, "Oh, we're going to bring survivors up to the like level of Swift,
more subtle things,
which is fine. I mean, that's what they need to do, so they have a consistent expectation of what survivors can do.
I can take that one.
They can't bring PS5 or PS4 trophies to PS5.
Do you have any plans for advanced tutorial for Survivor and Killers?
In fact, we are currently talking about the tutorial internally.
Okay.
So it is kind of tricky. Dead by Daylight's a kind of a simple game on the surface with a lot of complexity in the actual like execution of playing the game.
Okay.
So it is a balancing act between making the tutorial too simple and not teaching people enough, and too complicated, overwhelming people with things they don't need to know when they get started. So I don't think we can say yet whether there'll be like an advanced tutorial, but
I think the tutorial's fine, honestly.
And it would be nice to see something like that.
All right. Next question, I will take the answer for that.
Like, I feel like most of it should be learned by playing.
Is a community contest for an original killer power possible, like we do for cosmetic contest? So that's unfortunately very unlikely. Or killers start being
okay. So basically, they're saying it takes a while for them to make a killer, so they don't want to do that because they might have to change it significantly, and it'll take forever. So, meh. Expected answer. That's just fair.
Is asking, many new perks are just better versions of old perks. Are you trying to revisit some of these? For example, oppression.
I'm just going to skip past it because, again, the response from Elmo is they're not, and it's fair. I agree with him. They're not just better versions of old perks. They're different. They're just not as good as like the better perks that are widely used by everybody. So yeah, it's kind of eh. And of course, he's also responding that he does plan on revisiting them, and they are in the process of doing so. All right, so skipping on. Sorry, I'm skipping through like the less interesting stuff.
We planning to update them in the same push as the other maps?
He was saying they won't update them.
I think they're pretty neat.
And I generally agree. Larry's
Also,
Saloon and Midwich don't really need an update. They're already pretty good.
Like very old realms to make sure that we're bringing
realms. I just want to note that
up-to-date standard, and that's the main priority for the graphical update at this very moment.
Okay.
Can of Air again. Hello. With the release of the twins, will we see more unique killer powers?
This is such a shitty question. It's like, no, we're going to have only generic killer powers from now on. Of course they try to do that.
Well, I mean, I can't say yes or no because we haven't announced what our next killers are yet, but it's an interesting idea. And AI specifically is tricky because you want to make sure that there's still something for the killer to do, because like if the AI is doing enough work, then you have less work to do. And the AI has to be strong enough to where the player isn't going to blame the AI when it fails, So that's a tricky one.
Stupid Roomba.
It's an interesting idea.
We need a Roomba killer.
As you know, we like to try new things on occasion. Like the twins was totally new, having two things you can control and switch between them. So I think we will see more unique killer powers.
I do want to say this real quick.
Really comment on
the twins. I think they have a lot of conceptual issues, like a lot of issues with their current balancing. There's obviously 1,000,001 bugs, but the concept is really interesting, and I feel like if they can get it right, and they've not been doing exclusively bad. Like Blight is a great killer. It's probably one of the best killers they released in a while. Pyramid Head, he gets shit on a lot, but he's a better killer than people give him credit for. He's pretty fair, actually. I don't have any problem with Pyramid Head. I think they do a decent job. Like Ghostface is another example of a very technical character. He's not overpowered, but he's still relevantly strong. I think that hopefully they can hit a good spot with the twins. I think that they have an issue right now where they're really only good at the things that survivors hate going against, and I think as the meta gets shaked out with them, people are going to notice that more, and I think the positive opinion of them might wane. But hopefully, with any luck, with this whole like mid-chapter patch for the killer after the previous killer, where that killer gets reworked a little bit, hopefully any of those issues will be resolved then.
And what those might be at the moment.
But he is a unique and fun
I'm
character, or
seeing,
she is. They are.
I remember when we came out with Huntress, where people were like, it's impossible, it's absolutely impossible to do range killer in this game. And then, hey, look, Huntress, and now we have a multiple range killer. So
Yes,
pretty
multiple range
interesting to
killers,
see
all of
how
which
this
are
game
loved.
becomes. All right, Jotaro, any balance change? with range
Jotaro.
killer?
Oh boy, Moon.
Yes, indeed. So we do have an update in the works for Freddy. I cannot yet tell you what it is. However, as we've released the stats for more than a year now, Freddy has been pretty firmly on top, enough that it has, it really has gotten our attention. So there is something coming for Freddy. No details yet. Stay tuned.
All right.
Okay, so the Freddy topic I feel is a controversial one. As somebody who occasionally plays Freddy, and of course I have my good friend Moon who plays Freddy more. Well, he doesn't play Killer no more, but when he did, it was Freddy. And yeah, I hear a lot about Freddy. Frankly, as when I play Survivor, I don't find Freddy to be the most difficult thing to go against. Like, the snares aren't that crazy. Just don't milk the loop forever. Try to abandon the loop eventually before, like, you get fucked by snares, and generally it's not that bad. I mean, he's not a weak killer, but also don't waste forever trying to wake yourself up. Like, the slowdown of running across the map, it's like, okay, I'm getting off topic, but he's not that insane of a killer. He's a strong killer, but not that insane. I don't think he needs a nerf. I do think that maybe it's fair to say that there should be more skill involved in using his power. But I mean, at the same time, you could say the same thing about Clown. It's like, Clown has the same ability of slowing people down. Well, he used to only have it at loops where it would slow him down to throw the bottle during, like, the actual between loop portion of the chase where it wasn't worth doing it. But he has the same thing. It's just a fairly lazy power that lets you sort of, like, whittle down a loop. And some of it can be planned ahead. Like, some loops you can't just, they're, like, longer in nature, so you may not be able to just, like, put the snares there relevantly early enough if you've already started the chase at that point. So some of it is planning. I do think that people undersell that. And maybe that's because a lot of Freddy players are lazy. I don't know. But I could see, like, maybe making him a little bit more technical in that regard. Sure. Why not? So yeah, I wouldn't be against it as long as they don't weaken him, because I do not think Freddy is actually an overpowered character. I think that maybe it's fair to say he gets a lot of reward for a mid to low amount of skill. Like, sort of similar to, like, how a lot of people see Spirit, although I'm not entirely sold on that either, but I do think maybe that's fair to say. So yeah, I mean, if you want to make him more technical, add a little more depth, I think that might make him more fun to play, because personally I don't really find him that fun to play because it's pretty simple. I'm not against that, just don't make him weaker. He doesn't deserve to be.
Wimut, I don't know if I said that right. Can Sofan expect new skins for the egg? So I don't know if I can say expect, since that suggests that there's definitely something coming up. But we did add new outfits for the pig in the past, so it's in the realm of possibility.
Realm.
All I'm gonna answer to
Good
this.
old French
Just a
native
little
language
Pete
people.
is asking, do you have anything planned for Demogorgon? So
Obviously.
if you were not there like 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
So yeah, we mentioned earlier that we are going to be visiting Demogorgon after we.
And this is where I didn't get to see anything
anything
after this
not gonna
point.
be huge, like I said before. We're happy with the dichotomy between his power being shred and portals, so it's going to be a fine-tuning pass through a lot of numbers in his kit, and we'll do an add-on pass to make sure that those are behaving the way we want. I expect a couple of his add-ons are going to change.
Okay.
Okay. And again, the chat is not disappointing with the demo. All right. Valor is asking, any news on the server-side hit validation?
I really don't like server-side hit
So,
validation. It's been a
just to be
disaster every
fair
time they've
to
tried
us,
it.
This question was asked last week. We prepared these answers.
It was just a mess of attacks melting through survivors.
But any case,
Yeah. So I mean, if you were following the saga so far, we turned it on and then turned it off. We had an issue mainly concerning the Oni's power. So that is going to be fixed in an upcoming hotfix or bug fix patch. and then we'll be bringing the hit validation back.
Oh,
So
I'm a little nervous about
what
that, but
happened
hopefully they do a
between
good
the
job.
First hit validation test and turning it on yesterday was mostly regarding feedback on the killer side when hit validation kicked in. It could be kind of confusing and misleading if, as a killer, if your hit got corrected by the server. It would look like you would hit them, they wouldn't take damage, so oftentimes you'd be looking on the ground for the person you downed, only to realize that they had just kept running. So we made some changes with the last update so that a missed hit makes it more clear that you missed.
Right?
All I can
Keith
say
also
is
asking-
I'm skeptical of their capacity to pull it off, and it's like one of those things where if they fuck it up, it is one of those things that can cause me to not play the game anymore, and I feel like I'm not alone in that. So, do a good job, behavior. Please don't ruin your game. I wish I didn't have to worry about that as often as I do.
Can you do something about Badham map rates?
It turns
What
out
are you saying that somehow we were ended up on Badham a lot lately?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
I gotta say, I was wondering the same thing. Like, what is going on? Someone says, Badham comes up a lot, and I thought,
I'm
this
like,
person
how
is
is
right.
it that I got like 50% of my game on this map today?
God damn, this is 45 minutes
We
already.
have a system that can have maps come up more often than others, and we tend to do this with new maps so that people get to
Yeah,
play the new map.
obviously.
And the rate for Badham was accidentally increased. So if you felt like you were getting a lot of Badham games, it was not in your imagination. That was
Okay,
happening.
good.
I
I'm also
believe
not a
it's been
fan of New
fixed,
Badham, but
Or
side
it
note.
will ship with the next back-end update. I don't know.
Just
Yeah.
after the Bloodlust test, it got
Okay.
it got
So
fixed.
you shouldn't be getting Badham every time anymore, unless you're just lucky.
So,
lucky.
Or, yeah. Lucky or unlucky, whatever side you want to be on that one. But yeah,
I'll
we
just say
don't
as Survivor, I've not died on Badham since it got
so,
reworked.
you are not crazy. You are getting Badham a lot. Jotaro is asking, can we get cross progression between different
Yes, please. I would like to go to
So
PC.
this is a question we did answer a bunch before when we released cross progression, but I think it's worth repeating. We would like to have cross progression between all platforms, but it's really something that we have to work on a per platform basis, and we're going to keep trying to make it happen. But it's not just our call to make, and we don't want to get your hopes up before anything is set in stone. So far, we can only confirm cross progression between Steam and Stadia,
God damn it.
Switch being on the way. So that's the only thing we can
I
say.
really want to move to PC from PS4. I want
PM
mouse and keyboard and 60
Will
FPS.
console will ever be involved in more testing? Example, a
No.
Yeah.
Well,
so
what?
unfortunately, this is unlikely.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's
The
not practical for
PTB,
PTP.
We
I
have a
don't-
lot of leeway because we're
Yeah,
the
this is an
MMRs.
old
It
response.
might be
We've heard
worse
this.
than not. It's all good.
Okay, let's see here.
Will there be an update that fixes the UI on Xbox Series X and PS5?
It's not what the question says.
Sorry, I think we got a little bit out of sequence on what we were going to talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
As
we're-
for
we're-
the,
Oh,
It's-
maybe I skipped a question.
God damn it, Queen.
it's all good. I'll answer that question. The answer is yes. There is a fix coming for the UI problem on Xbox Series X and PS5.
Okay. I
Nifty.
skipped the mouse and keyboard. I am sorry.
If you are one of the
Sam
10 people
said,
who have one,
Are mouse and keyboard compatibility coming to Xbox? and
this is what I
PlayStation?
care about.
We do get asked this a lot,
Yep.
and it's not planned at the moment.
Why?
It is more work than you might think, given the way the game works on consoles. So we might go do it out, but at the moment we don't have any plans to do that.
Damn it! Why can't you just do it the same way you do on a PC?
Archely from Twitter is asking, will all the graphics
Sadness.
map making the
I
game
just want
look
cross
better?
progression.
Is there any chance of us seeing colorblind settings added in the near future?
I feel like it's too much work
so,
for them. Like,
for
I feel like it'll get
2021,
messed
we're
up.
reviewing a lot of settings option and evaluating additional setting features, but we aren't ready right now. We're not close enough to an actual plan to commit on any specific feature.
Okay.
But know that we're reevaluating setting options and setting features. And for the
Nifty.
question. Paladin Goo, can we disable exhaustion perks for a weekend to see how necessary they are in their current form, much like the Bloodlust experiment?
I mean, why not? I wouldn't be against them like doing like random experiments just to like try different stuff.
So, did I skip one again? No, I
Nope.
think that was you.
It's just the
Sorry.
sound of him banning that person.
Wait for it.
No. Okay. So
Ding dong.
with the exhaustion perks, we wouldn't have to disable exhaustion to test it, because we can quite easily go into our data and cull a whole bunch of games
Oh, that's fair.
that
That's
don't
fair.
have exhaustion perks in them and see what the difference is. And if you see a huge escape rate with exhaustion perks relative to non-exhaustion perks, then you know you have a balance problem. We haven't seen anything that looks like this at the moment, but if we did want to do a deeper analysis on it, we would not have to do a full experiment on it.
That's a really funny
We're gonna
question. But
pry
yeah,
it
I'd be
on
up for them doing like more
Bible and
experiments,
then-
just like for a weekend.
Also, I can guarantee you it doesn't help me to escape. I mostly get tunneled after it. Anyway,
You get what you
on
deserve.
that, Luminous is asking, y'all got more of those stats.
Oh boy, do we got stats?
So we actually do.
What do we got? What do we got? Talk to me. Crouches per teabag? 5, okay.
Them's our stats.
Teabags per game,
We
only
actually
1.8.
have those stats. We see you.
This is what we need
Those
to know.
sure are some stats.
We
Whoa.
see you.
Only 26%?
Teabag-
I'm surprised.
I
you said
teabag
that.
a
Well, it's
lot,
also worth
so I feel like I
noting
should
that, like,
have higher
teabagging's
averages
also
here.
a way that survivors say thank you to each other, or
Yes.
Yeah.
communicate with friends.
Yeah. Like, come
still-
heal me. No, I'm gonna work on this.
Seriously, I like
Heal me.
I
working on
teabag at the
story.
start of the match
Heal me.
just to establish
Don't shit on me
camaraderie.
for
I'm like, I don't
being
want to
hot.
fucking save you if you don't
it's those
teabag back.
Mobile players who are bringing down the teabagging stats. We need a dedicated teabag button on mobile.
I agree. These people have fair points.
Interestingly, though,
I've never been so
we
confident in
have
behavior in
seen
my
that
life.
the numbers of teabag per match decreases in red rank, so maybe people are actually too busy trying to escape with their life.
They ain't watching my games.
So, yes, we had stats. You're welcome. All right. The King Twitch on Twitter is asking, is there any update on key and
I
or
think Leaks by
Mori
Daylight
changes?
said that there was one
And
planned
is
for the
there
mid
any
chapter.
you're able to give us?
Oh god, he's muted.
You are muted.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, you're muted.
I did the old thing. Sorry. The answer to the first question is yes. The answer to the second question is no.
What?
So first question was update on key and or Mori. Yes. Second question was ETA. No.
Okay. So what's the update? What you got?
Thank you. Oui. All right. So Fleshtown is asking.
What
on
the
Twitter,
fuck?
When
What
will
kind of
we see,
fucking... Is there an update on keys and Mori changes? Yes. I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but there isn't a... Shut the fuck up, Clean. God damn it.
LGBTQ plus character?
I do not care
is
about
Dead
this
by
at all.
Daylight? So we have addressed this in interviews lately.
Okay.
It's still coming. We're committed to this.
You're
For
so
us,
tragically
representation is
Canadian.
Very important. And when we do add a LGBTQ plus character in the game, we want to be careful that we are doing it right. We don't want to create
Okay.
character that are tokens. We don't want to be
Okay.
just flashing that like that. For us, it should be fully fledged out character that are not defined solely by their sexuality.
Oh, thank
or
God.
gender. So-
I'm skeptical because I know how fucking progressive Canadians are at this shit and behavior with their annual Pride emotes and like Stunning and Brave fests are no exception to this. But okay, here's how I feel. First off, I don't care about who these characters fuck. That's stupid. I don't want this to be a design essential point. It's like now the thing is, they've for a long time they maintain neutrality because it's like, oh, whatever, we don't really care if they're straight or gay. No one thinks about that or anything in between. But now it's like, oh, in Legion's lore, Frank and Julie are banging, so now you've got to give us one too for the gay people. And it's like, come on. And that's really when they started to shift, is when the Legion lore came out. because it's suddenly they had a gotcha moment, and then everyone's like, oh, I need to have somebody who has sex with the same sex, otherwise this game is very offensive. There's all kinds of bitching about it. All kind of the Twitterati were mainly the ones bitching about it. I don't care about this. I don't think people should care about this, honestly. Like, I don't go into content being like, man, if I don't know this main character fucks girls, I ain't about this game. I feel like they shouldn't encourage people to judge each other based on their most shallow characteristics, like sexuality. So that annoys me that so much importance has been being placed on this. Like, they're bothering to take a question about it. They've spoken about it in interviews before. It's like, if you just had a character that was just, this character has sex with dudes casually in his lore, whatever, it wouldn't matter. And it sounds like, as skeptical as I am and as annoyed as I am at the attention this has to be given, I also have to appreciate that their community is very woke. Like, trust me, it is very woke, LGBT centered. So in that regard, they likely have a lot of pressure on them to respond to this, even though I do feel it's a very shallow and obnoxious issue, frankly. So it sounds like if she is being honest, and that is an if, because I find that people don't handle these very well. If they really just create a character that is not centralized on their sexuality and have more to them than that, if it's not just a character who's like, I'm gay and no one likes me, but I am brave and standing up for myself against the oppressors. If it's not just some stupid crap like that, and it's just something subtle, an aspect of an otherwise interesting character that just happens to be gay, then that's great. Nobody minds that. It's really the tokenization and like the obnoxious virtue signaling you see apparent in stories like this that make it so that when I hear this, I'm like cringing. I'm like, please don't fuck it up. So it's annoying that it keeps getting brought up. I hope they do a good job of it. I question if they will. Only time will tell, I suppose.
Oh, also a note from our creative director. This will always take place in the past. There was no time for romance or sexuality in the entity's realm.
Man, you ain't been seeing the same fan art I've been seeing.
All right, so that was our answer for
I like how this person's name is Fleshtown.
All right, Sour Melon Soda on Twitter is asking, will we get Dwight?
Now
in
this
the
is
main
what we
dress?
need.
Why am I... Ethan?
Just admit that Dwight is the femboy we all need.
We take the questions that get most upvoted. So, will we get Dwight in the maid dress? You know, I don't know. I couldn't commit one way.
God damn it! Commit, you coward.
Maybe we will. Maybe we won't.
If you had the choice.
I've been made mad by this.
No.
If
it were just
no,
up
I'm
to
not
me.
answering that.
I am not on the product team, so even if I said no and they wanted to do it, it would still happen.
Good.
Same for me. Same for McLean here. Okay, so multiple people were asking if there were plans to adjust the emblems because Killer's a bit harder to rank up at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the long term, there is a plan to adjust emblems. It's worth mentioning that a switch over to MMR for matchmaking would probably necessitate changes to emblems in the long term.
Okay.
In the short term, it's worth mentioning that there was an issue identified with the Devout emblem, possibly specific to the twins. This came up a lot for players.
Come on,
who were attempting
give
to
Plague
get
some
the,
love.
Adept Twins achievement.
Plague's been getting shit on for emblems way longer than those
There
kids.
is an issue that is sometimes causing that emblem to not report enough survivor hooked points, and we are on that one.
It's funny because on the opposite for me, I find it a little harder on Survivor to rank up than Killer, but that's just a personal.
That's a personal problem, Queen.
Rank up bots faster on Killer, but it's going to be different for everybody depending on their play styles.
I think it depends on the killer. Like,
Alright,
Legion's easy to level
yeah,
up.
so,
Freddy's easy to level up.
From Japan is asking,
Ghostface
have
too.
you considered making AFK Crow appear above Survivor who don't work on Generator for X amount of time
Yeah, that's kind
to
of.
prevent them from taking the game hostage?
This is a detailed game design question. And so I'm going to try to answer it in detail.
Okay.
In principle, it would be nice to prevent hostage games in any way possible, because
Yeah.
that always sucks to get in a game where it's being held hostage. But how much time is it okay to not work on a generator? Is it 10 seconds? Is it a minute? Is it 2 minutes? I mean, I've been in a few games where I didn't touch a gen for, I don't know, 5 minutes, but I was still active. I was doing totems. I was rescuing people. I was healing.
I get what he says. Personally, what I think they should do is make it so that if nobody does anything to a gen, like maybe if no one has 5 seconds of generator work in 2 minutes, you start to see people's auras. Or maybe they start with crows and then fade to auras if still nobody does anything. Although at that point it might be redundant. But yeah, that's when you start to give them like 2 minutes of nobody working a gen at all. Or that's hard too, because like sometimes if you're back-footed, you may not work a gen. Like if everyone's trying to just avoid being snowballed. Maybe 2 minutes of not in a chase with a killer and not doing a generator. For like if no one is on the team is either interacting with the killer in any way or in a chase, or working a gen, maybe then you start to do it, because those kind of games can be pretty obnoxious. They don't happen a lot, but like I've had them happen before, and it's just like, oh my god, can we get to the point? It's like they just want you to DC. So yeah, I'd like it if they would do something about that. It's not the biggest issue, but I would appreciate a fix. It's obnoxious when it happens.
People, and we weren't not doing generators just to hold the game hostage. It's that the killer was applying a lot of pressure, but was having trouble killing us. So this system could potentially be abused if we were to do this. Like if you tap a generator, does that reset the timer? So you could just tap a generator every 5 minutes and then not be considered holding it hostage.
I feel like this is a really can't-do attitude. I've already brought up ways you could easily avoid that.
You've picked up some crows because you haven't been repairing for 5 minutes. How long do you have to repair to get rid of those crows? Is it 30 seconds? Is it 10 seconds?
Maybe 10.
Does this present killers with a new way to find survivors? Keep them off the gens until they get their no repair crows, and now you can find them because of the crows? It's not that it's necessarily an incorrect feature. It's that it's not as simple as if you don't repair for this much time, you get crows.
Okay.
It's a way deeper and more complicated question.
I don't know if it's that complicated. So there's like maybe 3 or 4 questions.
All of these design questions would have to be asked. And so the short answer is no, we wouldn't do that. But not because we don't want games held hostage. But
you see, I don't like this, because it's like he's like, oh, there's questions. So instead of answering those questions, which I mean, half of what I just described answered those questions. Like you could tweak the numbers, maybe make it 10 seconds of working a gen. And obviously, if no one's been in a chase or been on a gen, or to be fair, or healed anyone during that time. Well, maybe not heal, because healing's a bit harder to track. So yeah, on a gen or in chase for 2 minutes, no one's done any of that. And then it's like you have to do it for 10 seconds to get rid of the crows. It's like, this is pretty standard. Like the fact that you have to answer these questions, and there's not that massive, but I mean, some questions. The fact that it's like got some gray areas where you have to fill in details is not a reason to say, no, I'm not doing it. That just feels incredibly lazy. As somebody who's a game designer, I'm just a random guy, and my base design already answers most of the questions you proposed as to reasons you couldn't do it. I guess the problem is he's asking questions to avoid doing something rather than asking questions to answer how he could do something, which just feels tragically lazy.
Approaching hostage holding from that angle leads to more questions than it solves, and then it probably wouldn't be a good feature. So if we wanted to reduce hostage holding, we would probably approach it from a different direction.
Casey is asking, what was the most challenging part in the design of the
I do not care. I don't.
So I did not work on the twins myself, but our designer did leave me a nice message here to pass along.
I'll leave it on for you guys.
Twins have a very unique power which allows them to be in 2 places at once, which creates a lot of problems that other killers don't have. For example, a killer isn't wide enough to block the basement stairs, but the twins could stand next to each other to block the way. Or to give another example, normally a killer cannot completely block the unhook prompt because you can unhook from any angle, but the twins can split up and block the entire prompt. From the beginning, a lot of work went into making sure that the power couldn't be abused in situations like that.
All right, we're pretty much at the end of our list of questions. I'm gonna go back to our news and announcement from earlier. So I think it's worth repeating the message that we had early in the stream, but Chapter 18 has been out since December 1st this week. We got the Twin and Elodie added to the game, and let's readdress the elephant in the room, please. Louis.
Sure. Yeah, so like we mentioned at the beginning of the stream, there were probably higher than normal number of issues
That's
with a lot
one
of
way
the
of putting
content in the last patch. The fixes are coming. We have follow-up patches planned for this. I noticed a lot of people in the chat were mentioning bugs which were not in our original known issues list in the patch notes, such as the issues with the Legion's power and Leatherface's power. We're aware of these, and we are working on this stuff. I'm going to get those patches out to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, so we're doing our best to get that up to speed. And again, for thanking you for sticking up with us while we're fixing this issue, you can log in game and. Okay, so we're not rating anyone. All right.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, so that's going to be about it for them. All right, guys. So hope you enjoyed that coverage of the Q&A stream. I felt like it was a pretty decent one. They've actually mentioned some interesting things, which usually it's just like, hey, how does it go? Do you go about getting a license killer? I'm like, I do not give a shit about that. So yeah, they actually had something interesting to talk about this stream. Again, I think that if they were going to respect their consumers and really put work into polishing their game, really make us feel the labor of love that they want to be nominated on Steam for the award for, I would appreciate it if they took time to actually finish the character before they ask me to pay them for them, or maybe not ruin all the other content that I've already paid for before they release them. That'd be nice. So yeah, please just delay your patches, guys. Outside of that, I mean, it wasn't all bad. There was some interesting stuff. I'm interested to see more of the clown stuff, so we'll see. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you being here. If you're still here, go ahead and drop a comment. Tell me what you thought of the Q&A stream. Also, feel free to stop by our Discord. Link is going to be in the description for that. And, of course, subscribe. And I will see you. We're probably going to be doing some Kingdom Hearts on Tuesday. I'm sure that that will age well for this video. All right, I'll see you then though. Bye.